The China Syndrome. It's about people who lie, and people faced with the agony of telling the truth. People like
我目前还在武汉汉口这个疫区，我向大家汇报一下，目前我们整个湖北甚至全国的疫情情况。
A cameraman who never learned how to play by the rules.
等一下啊，时代，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，有八个。哎呦，这么多就那死了。这是几天？就昨天是吧？哎呦。
The China Syndrome. The harder they try, the more resistance they meet.
They've got their own security man.
你找搜查证来，你没有传递，私人的住宅不允许任何人上闯，我有法律保护，好吧？不存在闯。你别过，你不过。哎，你不能跟我搞这种。不行。
The closer they get, the more threatening it becomes. The China Syndrome. Today, only a handful of people know what it really means. And they're scared.
老奶奶，别看了，这是咱们村的无人机呀！你不戴口罩就不要出去，不要乱跑，记得赶紧回家，回家洗洗手，对吧？注意一下卫生，对吧？咱们村这么多人都说你都说不住，非得派无人机过来飞你。大爷，这是非常时期，你不戴口罩又往外跑，对吧？那雪过几个月也能化了，对不对？在家里边待着不舒服吗？对吧？又有吃的又有喝的，刚过了个年，你干嘛老往外跑？对吧？过几年也能收拾。别笑了，赶紧骑你的3轮车回家，对吧？没事别往出跑，你看口罩也不戴，你还看啥？赶紧走，对吧？回家好好待着去。非常时期啊，赶紧回去啊！
对面那个电动车上装着粉色等分贝的大哥，请你戴上口罩啊，戴上口罩。打电话的帅哥，你口罩呢？赶紧给戴上。迎面走过来的美女边上的那位帅哥，看到你戴着口罩了啊，把口罩戴好，戴好。边走边吃的几位美女，抓紧的把口罩戴上。东西可以回家吃。
小朋友，现在是非常时期，别在外面溜达，口罩也没戴，赶快往家走。现在这冠状病毒多严重啊，快跑！别再出来了啊，在家好好待着，为社会做贡献。
The president has signed a presidential proclamation using his authority pursuant to Section 212F of the Immigration and Nationality Act, temporarily suspending the entry into the United States of foreign nationals who pose a risk of transmitting the 2019 novel coronavirus.
The China Syndrome.
Hello everyone, welcome to NeoUnrealist. In 1979, there was a disaster film titled The China Syndrome. It's probably before most of our time. So it starred Michael Douglas, Jack Lemmon, and Jane Fonda. Yeah, good old Hanoi Jane herself, Jane Fonda. The China Syndrome, to be sure, it was a movie about the risk of a catastrophic accident at a fictional nuclear power plant outside Los Angeles. But as you can imagine, the powers that be at the time and the nuclear power industry, they pushed back hard on this film, very aggressively painting it as alarmist fiction. Now, unfortunately for those naysayers, in a case of horrible timing, 12 days after the release of the film, the infamous 3 Mile Island nuclear accident occurred in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania. And the nuclear power industry in the U.S. has never really recovered from that. I mean, what had previously been a very robust American nuclear power industry collapsed in on itself because, despite the attempt to paint the film as alarmist, the reality of a real-world nuclear safety issue contradicted the message of nothing to see here, move along. Now, that's what's going on here in the first month of 2020, where many governments and institutions, they follow the initial Chinese Communist Party line, telling people to keep calm and carry on, and the forces of the blue checkmark Twitterati social justice brigade, are amplifying the Chinese state propaganda, telling everyone that the pandemic disease, 2019 novel coronavirus, it's just a cold. Don't worry, China's got this. Just like the reality check of the 3 Mile Island accident back in '79 undermined the public's faith in those claims of alarmism back at that time with regard to the China Syndrome, that movie. The things we're seeing governments, corporations, and people on the ground actually do seem to be in direct opposition to these nonsensical messages we keep getting, trying to equate novel coronavirus to situation normal. Let Chinese people cough on you, you bigot. So first and foremost, over the past week, anecdotal stories were coming out of China saying that the number of deaths reported by the Chinese government is being artificially kept lower than the true figure because they claim bodies of coronavirus victims were not being turned over to their next of kin and burned in crematoriums, crematoria, whatever the plural conjugation is. Well, conspiracy theory is what most people were saying when they were commenting on this, but don't be ridiculous. Now, to be fair, I'm gonna say that of course you shouldn't accept at face value, the reports made by unknown and unverifiable people on Twitter and Chinese social media outlets. On the other hand, we here in the United States and just the larger Western world in general, we've gotten into a very bad and sloppy habit, especially on online forums when we talk about these things, of basically having only two categories for news. Either it's 100% gospel because CNN or the New York Times has reported it, or it's quote-unquote a conspiracy theory. So almost every piece of unconfirmed rumor or news is just labeled conspiracy theory now. An unconfirmed report of something that could plausibly be occurring is not a conspiracy theory, it's just an unconfirmed report. When did the meaning of the term conspiracy theory expand to encompass everything not universally accepted as true? Well, for so much for the people saying that the cremation stories were a conspiracy theory. Here's a tweet from the official Twitter account of the Global Times. The Global Times is the English language edition of the People's Daily. The People's Daily, if you don't know, is the official newspaper of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China. So what is now the official statement of the Chinese Communist Party? Bodies of novel coronavirus 2019 victims should be cremated close by and immediately. Burials or transfer of the bodies not allowed. Funerals not allowed to avoid spread of the virus. National Health Commission. So there you have it. The National Health Commission of China has now admitted that it is not turning the bodies of coronavirus victims to their families for funerals. They are burning them at sites close by immediately after death. You cannot trust the statistics about the number of dead coming out of China. If you need further evidence of that, look no further than this video. The person identifies himself as Fang Bin, a resident of Wuhan, and he says it's February 1st, which, as of this recording, was yesterday. He says he's walking in Hao or Hu, whatever. I apologize for the mispronunciation to the residents there. He places this in the eastern part of the city of Wuhan. His intent was to verify for himself something that he heard, that there are supplies in the west part of Wuhan at the International Expo Center, but due to lack of enough people to transport it, the hospitals in Wuhan are low on supplies. So it appears he went to see the supply situation, for himself, to show to his live stream viewers the real story on that rumor.
大家好，我是方斌。今天是2月1号了。这几天呢，就传这个说医院的这个资源呐、比较紧张，就医院的这个缺少这个物资。然后又说这个在哪呀？叫武汉国际博览中心嘛，就是汉阳那边，所以有很多东西积压。对救援物资积压呀，说好像是说没有人去拉吧。
All right, so Fang Bin, he gets to the hospital eventually. It's called Hospital Number 5. I guess in China they just number their hospitals. And look at what he found.
2点过这几分钟，这是武昌殡仪馆。哎呦，死了好多！哎呦，这是死了3个，这4袋装尸袋，里面尸体。1、2、3、4。哎呦，那一个装尸袋就一个尸体啊！哎呦，好吓人哦！那里面就刚才殡仪馆3个装尸袋，3个尸体，里面有3个尸体。
是的，有3个。
3个尸体。
他报道的才10几个人。
这就3个尸体。
他妈这就3个。天他的死了。
是啊。你不敢进去？往里面去啊！哎呦，还这么多人呢！
我这几本是他的。
这不是免费吗？怎么还要钱呢？不免费，电视说免费啊。电视说了吗？免费吗？
电视说进行坛免费，
只有去金银潭才免费。
绝对拿免费的。
这不免费。这搞什么这是？不免。
He walked up to the first hospital he intended to visit that day, Hospital Number 5, as I mentioned, and he saw a van parked out front of the front doors with 3 corpses piled up inside it. Now he goes inside to walk around the receiving area and is amazed to discover that, contrary to government claims, the treatment for coronavirus is not free of charge. And eventually, about 5 minutes inside he comes back outside, and what does he see?
那又多了，刚才3个，现在我数一下啊，4袋，1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8，有8个。哎呦，这么多就那死了。这是几天？就昨天是吧？哎呦，这死人这么多啊！这是病床不让我进的，他在往这搬尸体呢。往这搬尸体。这里面还有整石，也有整石。哎呦，这里面也有整石。哎呀，对不起。哎呦，这你家什么人呢？
父亲。
哎呦，
我的父亲。
哎呦，
里边这边有个1万块钱的，我的中
完全
是啊是。
完了。
我家的。
完了，估计不上来了，已经没有生命特征。
不说了，就了。
没有生命特征了吗？这个也完了，这个完了，这个又完了呀！ 这个又完了一个。又完那个，他儿子啊，又快死了一个，他儿子已经喘不过气来了，那个刚才3个，现在几分钟？5分钟了，现在已经8个了，又来了一个，来2个。你们里面还有尸体吗？还有啊，这么多。哎呦，这家伙这个也太多了呀，这样还在搬，这尸体还在搬。哎呦，8个尸体。哎。
He walks right up to the van that he looked in earlier with the 3 corpses. He looks inside and now there's 8 corpses in body bags. He goes back into the hospital. He saw another man in the process of being declared dead by the medical staff. They're attending to him there, while the man's son is standing nearby crying while he's on the phone with someone else, presumably family or loved ones, crying for his apparently about to die father, another a victim of the coronavirus. So if we assume that that's presumably, once they officially declare that patient deceased, 9 corpses right there at that one hospital at that time yesterday. Remember, there's 7 hospitals at least now operating in Wuhan. I don't know the status of the hospitals that they were supposedly building. If they are experiencing similar mortality rates, one might extrapolate that could portend you'd expect more than 50 corpses for just that one day if the other hospitals are seeing a similar situation as hospital number 5. So understand that today, as Fang Bin described what happened to him yesterday, he says that, one of the men moving the corpses into the van was calling out for more body bags.
然后我从那出来以后呢，他那个又在抬尸体，那个管装尸人，他说尸袋，他就喊要拉尸袋，里面究竟有几个，这个就不知道了，因为他可能就是中午来收一次呗，什么时候再来收一次呗，就这么一个情况。看来五医院看来死的这个比较多。这个新闻报道，这些报纸都不来报道。
He believes that there were more bodies still inside the hospital than just the 8 he saw in the van and presumably the one man in the process of becoming deceased. They just hadn't bagged them up yet. But in any event, just with the 8 corpses in the van alone and the man nearing death in the hospital ward, how does that jibe with the current reported number of 294 deaths in Wuhan province? At that rate, Wuhan would hit that number of deaths in just 5 or 6 days, give or take. I mean, this epidemic has been running for 62 days since the first known case came down with symptoms on December 1st, 2019 in Wuhan. I don't know about you, but this one guy in Wuhan with no car, just walking around on foot within the span of a couple hours, he was able to capture on video at least 8, maybe 9 bodies in one location, just in open sight awaiting transport to a crematorium. Now, I could say that because, remember, the Chinese Communist Party's official newspaper says that all coronavirus victims are burned immediately at a nearby location. I'm thinking if little old Fang Bin can find, 8 coronavirus fatalities in just a walk around Wuhan, maybe the numbers we're getting out of the Chinese government about deaths in Wuhan are somewhat unreliable. I mean, well, lo and behold, before the day was even over, just hours later, Fang Bin, remember, shared those videos earlier in the day, yesterday, it was around noontime. By last night, he had Chinese government officials at his door telling him, open the door. They had to check his temperature because he'd been at the hospital earlier that day without what they deemed was adequate protection. Now, mind you, Fang Bin, he's a resident of Communist China. He's been around the block. But he seems incredulous that the regime was so fast to react. He doesn't seem shocked that they came to his house. His shock seems to be the efficiency and speed with which they showed up. Note how he just exclaims, I just showed the video today.
不能找那个叫什么？我今天拍的视频，你们妈这么快就找我来了？
哎，朋友，测个体温，现在
体温什么的，我体温没问题啊。
那我们不放心啊。
你们是哪里？你说清楚哪里的？你哪里的？
你开下门，你开下门。
不，你要告诉我是哪里吗？
是哪里？你要开门，你才知道，我才给你看呢。
不，我的体温没有问题。你说我体温，
我有点担心。
你检查的，
现在不放心呢。
因为什么东西不放心呢？
你现在去了医院，我们不对你不放心，因为你的防护措施不到位。
去了医院就我的做不到，我的防护措施怎么不到位了？我体温，如果我的体温合适怎么办？
哎，体温合适，我们跟你说了，体温合适就合适，你的安全还不好。
体温合适，你们不会因为到时候我体温合适，然后你把我当成不合适，然后隔离我，会不会？
哎，你去了危险的地方，我们现在首先要搞清楚你到底有没有问题，对不对？
如果我的体温合适，没有问题，
哎，
这种情况下你会不会以这个名义隔离我？问题是我没有病啊，我体温正常啊。你这样，你拿个搜查证来，我不废话，你去拿个搜查证来，你拿搜查证来。如果你够法律条件，我们就按法律办，好不好？你找搜查证来，你没有传递，私人的住宅不允许任何人上床，我有法律保护，好吧？
不存在床。
别过，哎，你不能跟我搞这种。不行。
They bum rushed Fang Bin's door and arrested him. So later on that night, after berating him all, for hours for posting that video from inside Wuhan and describing the coronavirus situation, they let him go because, well, speculation on my part, with thousands of people around the world having seen his video and then saw them arrest him, it looked pretty bad if Fang Bin disappeared into some gulag. But he was able to post video after he got back home around 11 p.m. local time in Wuhan and let people know that he was okay.
是叫什么？他说只能允许这个一个声音，不然就乱了，就这样的。哎，弄着到了11点多钟的时候，哎，突然那个形势就，口气也变了，他们可能就汉阳分局可能来一个局长，知道吧？还是什么的，可能是知道吧？他可能还有2个是国保，几个是国保还是国安搞不清，然后这是市新派出所的，然后他呢就是口气一变，我知道了，肯定是我发的视频，大家就传开了，这样的就等于就是说。这一传，所以我就一直讲，我的安全靠什么？就靠大家，我的安全就靠大家。说你怕没有用啊，求没有用啊，对不对啊？你无论你越怕的越这样啊，只有大家起来。所以我这次我说全民自救运动应该加一下，全民互救运动。那我就典型的嘛，就是大家把我救出来了嘛。非常谢谢大家，非常谢谢大家。但现在我的一个台式机。一个手提电脑，他就跟我扣了的，他就是以后再说，等那个封完了以后再说。随着他封完了怎么回事呢？他可能就找我的把柄啊，那就是不管他了。反正他以后再抓我，反正他如果再抓我，还是一样，大家就是齐心协力就完了。他抓我，大家就去呼吁，好吧？然后呢，接下来我的这个手机号、微信号，有可能我就怕封啊什么的，是吧？我就赶快把这个视频发出去，好吧？然后我再换吧。好，谢谢大家，谢谢，非常感谢大家，是大家把我救出来了，谢谢大家，谢谢大家。
So they let him go later, but I think Fang Bin, he got the message that they were trying to send to him. Don't tell people on the internet what's really happening in Wuhan. They took his desktop computer, they took his laptop computer, and he believes they'll cancel his phone and ban his WeChat account next to shut down his reporting. But if you think the case of Fang Bin is some outlier, just an extreme case, simply due to the fact that he was live streaming from the hospital in Wuhan, guess again.
在大是大非面前，尤其是未经官方认证或宣布，不得私人发布任何关于疫情的任何消息。我明确告诉你啊，高尔夫目前官方没有确认病例，明白吗？那哪个地方会通知呢？会官方发布？你看官方通告啊，没有官方通告不能随便发布，一旦发布造成社会影响的，我们将追究法律责任。现在我们要求你立即纠正你前面的朋友圈，一个是删除，第二个你再发朋友圈，对前面你发的信息进行纠正
怎么纠正？
你就说，哎呀，可能刚才这个上一条这个信息也不是很准确，如果有大家带来困扰，表示感谢、抱歉之类的，你自己挽回影响，我们跟领导已经请示首先对你进行训诫， 不过你拒不挽回影响或拒不道歉的，我们按照法律要求对你进行追究法律责任，依法处理，明白吗？现在全国都是这么处理的啊。
The woman made a post about coronavirus on WeChat. The Chinese police show up at her door and order her to delete the post. Then they order her to make a second post apologizing for making the first post and distributing what they describe as disinformation or inaccurate information, and basically dictate to her what she will say in her second WeChat post. If she does not do this, they say they'll open an investigation into her and one presumes return and take her away, is the implication here when you have half a dozen cops standing in the corridor outside your door. I guess the bottom line point I'm trying to make with this video is we need to push back more on the people who scream conspiracy theory at everything. We can't operate in an information environment where every bit of news is either 100% confirmed reality or a conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory is a way to stop all questions, debate, and further investigation when it disagrees with someone's desired narrative. You don't have to assign 100% unquestioned belief into every rumor or claim you find on social media. Most of them probably are garbage. But quite the opposite, that's how I take things. You should be highly skeptical of all claims. So, by the same token, you can't just hand wave away everything you hear as complete balderdash. When there's indications that, hey, there might be something to that. When almost every piece of evidence you see points in that direction, especially. Remember, in the case of coronavirus, the people who've been giving us it's just a cold style defenses and labeling everything conspiracy theory, they're using figures provided to us by the Chinese Communist Party as the basis of their arguments. So, to my mind, that's a very shaky foundation to base your information about the coronavirus on. That's all for this NeoUnrealist. If you want to help the channel, do me a favor. Hit like for this video. Leave a comment below. Mash down on the subscribe button if you're not already subbed to the channel. Click on the notification bell beside it. Put it on the all setting to keep up with newer content. If you want to contribute directly to the channel and toss your hard-earned dollars in Wuhan into the tip jar, follow the links below to Patreon, Subscribestar, or PayPal. If you watch this on BitChute, you can just bypass the middleman. Just click on the green tip pledge button on the video player. Thanks for watching.